A little boy came home from the playground with a bloody nose, black eye, and torn clothes. It was obvious he'd been in a bad fight and lost. While his father was patching him up, he asked his son, "What happened?" "Well, Dad," said the boy, "I challenged Sam to a duel. And I gave him his choice of weapons." "Uh-huh," said the father. "That seems fair." "I know, but I never thought he'd choose his big sister as a weapon." "So, why do we fight? Why can't we just be nice?" When the Dalai Lama is asked how he remains so calm amidst the turmoil of his life and that of his people, he replies, "My religion is kindness." In the play Into the Woods, Red Riding Hood is complaining to Prince Charming, "You are an evil liar and a cheat. Where is my Prince Charming that I grew up loving and trusting?" "Whoa," he replied. "Hold on. I am Prince Charming, and there are no other characteristics implied by that title. So I ask you, am I charming or not?" "Yes, but you're not nice." What does it mean to let God live through you? Does it mean to be nice because God is nice? Can you force yourself to be like God? No. It should be easy to do, not forced. If you find it hard to forgive someone, it isn't God doing it through you. If letting God live through you is the way we were meant to be, why does it seem impossible at times? How do you make kindness your religion? Or are you content being charming but not nice? Jesus said, "Be like little children." Here's a story. Children were playing at a recreation area when my 5-year-old granddaughter motioned for a small boy to stop. She knelt down before him and retied his flopping shoelaces. She had only just learned how to tie her own. No words were spoken, but after she finished, both smiled shyly, then turned to race off in different directions. Let's go back in time a few thousand years. Jesus walks up to the shore of the sea and finds some fishermen there, tired from a night of fishing and deeply disappointed because they had not caught a single fish. Jesus suggests that they cast their net on the other side of the boat. They thought this a silly request, but there was something about the man Jesus that convinced them to try what he had said. Rowing back out from the shore, they cast their net, and in a moment it was filled with fish to the point of breaking. They had to ask for help from the other fishermen. Gratitude. They must have been filled with this feeling. Jesus too was fishing, not with a net, but with his words. He said to one of the fishermen, "Simon, come follow me, and I will make you a fisherman, not of fish, but of men." Simon left his boatload of fish and followed Jesus. It was a choice, freely given. The first step to letting God live through us is to make a choice to do so. As Professor Dumbledore said, it is our choices which make us who we are. Even if our life has been full of poor choices, it is never too late. We can change. All we have to do is open our hearts and let God in. Here's another story. Leaving a store, I returned to my car only to find that I'd locked my keys and cell phone inside. A teenager riding his bike saw me kick a tire and say a few choice words. "What's wrong?" he asked. I explained my situation. "But even if I could call my wife," I said, She can't bring me her car key, since this is our only car." "Well," the boy said shyly, "I can open it for you. I was going to anyways as soon as you left." Mark Twain said, "Forgiveness is the fragrance that the violet sheds on the heel that has crushed it." Being nice is a start, but forgiving is harder. Why? It is only so because we humans find it easier to judge than to forgive. Judgment causes what Buddha calls suffering. Forgiveness releases the pain. How do we forgive? Allow God to forgive through you. Okay, I forgive you, you creep. That is falling short of the mark. Or you manage to say the proper words, but every time you see that person, you cringe and tighten your fists up into little balls. Relax. That's the first step. Relax your unforgiving nature and allow another nature to become who you are. Taoists have a practice called the 6 healing sounds. Anger is held in the liver. The healing sound focused on the liver converts anger into kindness. And I have a book on this, and I used to practice the 6 healing sounds, and it works. You can convert negative emotions into positive energy using these sounds. Anyways, it's taught in the Taoist books that I've read that if someone has angered you and then you perform the liver healing sound 32 times and you are still angry with them, then you have a right to slap that person in the face. I found that to be ridiculous, but I have a strong suspicion that they are being very serious with this. Anger itself isn't inherently problematic. In fact, it's a perfectly natural response to any number of life experiences. When either repressed or excessively vented, anger can easily lead to suffering. Anger becomes like an inner demon clawing at our insides until it is allowed to escape into those around us. But when met with curiosity and patience, it can give us the momentum we need to grow and change in the direction of our destiny. Again, it is our choice. Another story. There is a man who screams day and night and lives in the graveyard. In the tunnels and pits, fingernails long and yellow, matted hair and teeth snarling. What kind of man would live like this? Jesus heard about this man and goes to talk to him. The man sees Jesus coming and screams at him, "Have you come to torment us before our time, thou Son of Man?" Jesus says nothing, just looks. "Leave us alone," screams the man, spittle spraying from his mouth. Jesus simply says to the man, "Be gone." And the evil spirits who were possessing the man let out one last wail as they stream out of the top of his head and rush like a wind across the graveyard and are gone. The man lay at Jesus' feet as if in a daze. Jesus takes him by the hand and raises him to his feet as he says, "Arise and be whole." The man was not himself. An evil nature had entered his body. How many of us have allowed an evil nature to enter our body? One that is contrary to our divine nature? I would guess that all of us have. For this is part of being mortal. There is a way to escape this difficulty. Firstly, nothing good comes from our trying to force ourselves to be something we are not. You cannot force forgiveness any more than that crazy man in the graveyard could get rid of the demons who possessed him. Instead, you incarnate into a person who is forgiving. Before, you find it impossible to forgive, and then you make the change, and forgiving becomes the way you are. God is living through you. We are getting closer to the answer to our question, how do we forgive? But now we got to ask this question, how do we incarnate into a person who is forgiving? Emmett Fox said that prayer was the golden key. Whenever we encounter a difficult life experience, we are to stop what we are doing and think of God. That's it. The golden key is simple. Think of God, and the difficulty, no matter what it is, will disappear. We are talking about forgiveness here, which is harder than being nice. Emmett also said that when we pray, we change. Our soul changes. Every time we pray, we become a little bit more like God because He is allowed to live through us just a little bit more than before. We can take this a step further. You can become so forgiving that you stop being forgiving. What kind of nonsense is that? Francis W. Stokes, a New Thought teacher from the 1920s, said, "To pray without ceasing, that is, to look continually towards God and His sinless heaven, is to enter into this mind also which sees no error, therefore takes no offense, and has nothing to forgive." Dr. Ray said, "Forgiveness is an act of love that takes place after we have experienced and reacted against an event that we could not love as it happened. This is because we tend to resist and run away from pain. The irreducible kernel at the center of learning to love what is loving the pain of what is. Our ultimate goal is to love what is in real time so that no resistance to what is happening in the present moment can damage or sicken us ever again. This is true forgiveness, to never take offense in the first place, and then forgiveness becomes irrelevant. You forgive so fast that you don't even notice it happening. The door to your heart will certainly be wide open if you can allow God to live through you to this degree. And then the day came when the risk to remain tight in a bud was more painful than the risk it took to blossom. What is harder than forgiving? Let's step up the challenge another notch. Let's allow God to live through us with compassion. From being nice to being forgiving to being compassionate. A story. I was 4 months pregnant with our first child when our baby's heart stopped beating. I was devastated. As the days went on, I was nervous about returning to work. I'm a middle school teacher, and I didn't know how I could face kids. This past May, after 4 weeks of recovering, I walked into my empty classroom and turned on the lights. Glued to the wall were hundreds of colored paper butterflies, each with a handwritten message on it from current and past students. All of them had encouraging messages. Keep moving forward. Don't give up on God, and know that we love you. It was exactly what I needed. The next step is service. Can you allow God to give through you, to render service to others through you? Lao Tzu taught, take care of those who are deserving, also equally take care of those who are not, and do not make a distinction between them. I was told once that I felt too much. Felt too much? Huh! I replied, so does God. That's why you can see the Grand Canyon from the moon. Let the grandeur of God's feelings, His marvelous love fill you. Don't hold back, and God will not hold back. Let others see God's Grand Canyon through you. I'd like to relate to you some things about W.C. Fields' life. He worked in a small theater as an actor in New York City. He was married with one child, a son. The manager of the theater was angry with W.C. Fields because he was in the habit of adding his own lines to the script and, in the opinion of the manager, was ruining the performance. The manager and W.C. had a heated argument where W.C. informed the manager that he considered it a crime to steal money from those who attended the theater by not providing them with a good show. W.C. quit and moved to Hollywood, where he became a famous comedian. W.C.'s wife had left him for another man about this time. She and her son stayed in New York City. W.C. Fields never divorced her, being a Catholic, and faithfully sent her some money each month until he died. Carlotta Monti was staying at W.C.'s house. I can't recall why. W.C. was in the habit of throwing these drinking parties at his house. When Carlotta would announce that she was going off to bed and good night, W.C. would inevitably make some sort of lewd comment about what they would be doing in bed later, which always got a good laugh from his friends. One night, after the party, she confronted him about this and asked why he hadn't made any advances in all this time she'd lived there, since he talked about it often enough. W.C. replied, "What? Oh, no, I could not do that. I am a married man." "Married or not, I'd like it very much if you would. Would you like me to be your mistress?" He solemnly replied, "Indeed I would." And that was that. They were a couple until he died. Now, W.C. was in a hospital, again, for liver failure due to his excessive alcohol drinking. Carlotta was there at his side. W.C. complained that he could not sleep in a place like this, that he recalled growing up in Nebraska where it rained nearly every night. The sound of the rain would lull him to sleep. Later that night, she hooked up a hose and sprayed W.C.'s window, imitating rain, until he went to sleep. This was the first night's sleep he had had in days. W.C. died shortly after that. Carlotta undoubtedly had a hard life with W.C. due to his alcohol addiction and the ill health this caused. But if we could ask her, she would say that it was worth it, that she was a better woman, having known this man and having loved him. Service is compassion turned into action. From being nice to forgiving, to being compassionate, to letting it, all of the above, shine out of your soul as loving service. Letting God live through you. It's the way we were meant to be, without judgment, without reserve. All you have to do is allow it to happen. Pray often and allow it to happen.